Hello everyone, welcome to session number 35 at D365 UG India platform. Today we have Anita joining us from UK and she will be talking about how to use ADF pipelines for building integrations with Dynamics 365 F&O platform. Before I hand it over to her, just a quick walkthrough of the agenda. I will be doing a group introduction and then we'll talk about upcoming sessions. Few things to be mindful of that the views expressed in these sessions are based on the speaker's experience and it does not represent the view of Microsoft or their employers. For these sessions, we are using lab environments and any recommendations shared in these sessions should be tested in non-prod environments before applying to the production environment. And finally, be respectful to the speaker audiences. Feel free to chat in the chat window, appreciate them, send your kudos. And this session is being recorded and will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if you do not consent to be part of a recorded session, then now is a good time to disconnect. Moving on, a quick introduction of the group. We launched this group almost 2 years back with a vision of creating a platform for Dynamics 365 professionals to share their knowledge, connect with each other, and grow together. We are available on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. We have good support, and we have around 2,500 people who are joining us in various ways and supporting us to continue on this journey. So thank you everyone who has supported us, joined these sessions, and encouraged us to keep the momentum going. So do scan these QR codes and feel free to connect with us. The group is currently led by 4 volunteers, myself, Umesh, Satya, and Deepak. So we all 4 are working together to drive it. If you have any questions on this group or want to present in this group, feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. All the past sessions are available on our YouTube channel. The link is on the screen. We will also share it in the chat window. So please do like and subscribe these videos and share your feedback and support us to keep driving this group. So today we have Anita talking about ADF pipeline and how to use them for building integrations with Dynamics 365 F&O. So without any further ado, I'll hand it over to Anita. Anita, the stage is all yours. All the best. We are looking forward to the session.
Thank you, Rachit. Yeah, let me share my screen. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Rachit. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone who are present here. And thanks for joining the session. Thank you, Rachit and team, for giving me an opportunity to present the session here. And quick agenda here is about me. And the next is about ADF, Azure Data Factory. The introduction, what are the features and what are the components, and followed by a demo where I will be explaining all these features and components and a simple integration, how it will be integrated and transformed, how the data is transformed using ADF and it is integrated to F&O, followed by Q&A. So about me, myself, Anita Ishwaran, I am working for Sonata Software Europe Limited. And I have 17 plus years of experience in AX. Like I started when it was AX 3.0. And then I am very much into integration and the D365F&O part. So I reside in the United Kingdom and I also author a blog which is mentioned here. So whatever the latest updates or whatever a part of my learning journey, I will be sharing in this blog. And this is I have shared my LinkedIn ID as well. So whatever the latest updates I have posted in my blog, it will also be in my LinkedIn. So yeah, without further delay, so Azure Data Factory. So anyway, everybody, you are familiar with this term. Azure Data Factory, it is a cloud-based integration service. So it is provided by Microsoft Azure. What it does, it helps you to create, schedule, and manage the data-driven workflow. So what are workflows here? See, workflows, logic apps, all these are same. Here we call it as pipelines in Azure Data Factory. So pipelines, they move and transform the data between the data stores. Here, what are data source? Here, data sources. Like it can be tables, or it can be a data set, or it can be of different types that I will show you during the demo. So also it is designed to help the organizations efficiently and securely manage and transform the data to various sources from destinations. So whereas here only databases are not included, even data warehouses, and with the recent update, even data lakes are also included in this journey. And so ADF is a critical component in building a something called as modern pipeline, and thus it enables the data engineers and scientists to work with data efficiently. And it also supports batch and real-time data processing. So batch is scheduled one, and real-time, as soon as you do something here, it will be automatically reflected in your end system. So here it plays a central role in the ELT and ETL processes. So what is ELT and ETL? It stands for extraction, transformation, and the data even here, which is a fundamental for data warehousing and analytics and business intelligence. So thus it is a critical component in building these pipelines here. So that is a major role of data factory. And what are the key features here? The data movement and transformation. The first key feature, there are a number of key features. I have listed few of the one which plays a major role, which highlights the ADF here. One is data movement and transformation, ELT, extraction, transaction, and load. So because since it is supported for various data sources and it performs a transformation using compute services such as we have Azure HD Insight, Azure Batch, and even Azure Data Lake Analytics. So it allows you to create and schedule the data workflows. So here it is data workflows. As I said, they're nothing but the data pipelines here. So they facilitate the movement and transformation of data between the various data sources. So in short, hybrid data movement. So you can transform the data and you can move the data across various data sources here. The next feature is serverless integration service. So what does it mean is you don't need to worry about the infrastructure here. You focus on setting up only the data pipelines. Rest data, since it is a serverless integration, data factory can scale dynamically to handle the large volumes of data for the user. And even the cost management feature here helps you to optimize the data integration cost here. So everything is seamless here. The next is various data store support. So as I said earlier, it is not only limited to the Azure Blob Storage. So Azure Blob Storage, you will have containers, right? So it is not only limited to that. Now you have SQL Data Warehouse, on-premises SQL Server, and the list is more, which in short you can say is an extensible ecosystem. So where you have a hybrid scenarios enables you to connect and move the data between the on-premises and cloud environment. So it ensures the flexibility in the data integration. So if you use data factory, you will have this flexibility during the data integration here. Visuals tools. So what are visuals tools here? It is just a visual interface that I will show you in the demo. I mean, when I give you a walkthrough of how the ADF environment looks, you will be able to coordinate. You will be able to correlate how these features are mapped there. So it is just a visual interface here, and which makes the user friendly, and it's almost a very less code, so thus making it accessible for both technical and non-technical users here. So this is especially needed for building and managing the pipeline, and thus it is very less dependency is there on the technical users here. Next is triggering and runs and scheduling. So for example, anyway, manual trigger is mostly not preferred. So usually it will be triggered based on some schedule or whenever any condition is met. So this feature is also available in ADF. So pipelines can be triggered on a schedule, or if there are any response to an event or to an external event, if there is something to trigger, even that is also possible. So thus ADF is made versatile for different use cases where data needs to be processed at specific times or upon certain conditions. So even if you want to do something after the business hours, user need not be present there physically, because if you schedule it, then ADF takes care of doing all the transformation and bring the data for you. The next is monitoring and management. So since monitoring here in the case, what is happening is every time there is an option for monitoring the previous execution also. Like you can see the history, what has happened in the previous execution. If there is anything wrong, it has happened. If there are any detection, any failure detection has to be done. All this is also available in as a part of monitoring and management features, because this makes the data pipeline resilient and it has a built-in alerting capability. So this makes the user more friendly in using the ADF. and it has a built-in fault tolerance and recovery also. So you have something, this how this is achieved is via the retry policy. So if there is something goes wrong during the execution, the pipeline will not go down. It will, if you have with the retry feature, the pipeline will be able to retry for certain amount of limit. You can define a limit there, and it will be able to retry for a certain amount of time without bringing the pipeline entirely down during the workflows. So this is one of the best features here. And security. So obviously, since we are dealing with a large amount of data here, there comes a question of how the security is handled here. So this is securely transferred via HTTPS or the Express route, and it is also encrypted at rest in Azure. So since it is hosted in Azure, security is an added feature here. And this is also via the role-based access control is also there. So not everyone will be able to access this particular data factory and even the data sets what is defined here. So based on the role control, the data integrity and the security is maintained here. And the next are the components. So now you will have got familiar with few of these phrases what I have mentioned here, pipelines, data sets. So I will give you a brief walkthrough of what these are. So pipelines, they are nothing but a logical grouping of activities. So you are going to define a sequence of activities. Do a copy, followed by do a transformation, followed by send a data. So this is just a sequence of activities you are going to define in the pipeline. So this will be performed together as a task. So this is called as a pipeline. So what is activity here? Each processing step in a pipeline is called as activity. So activities, they define the actions to perform on your data, and the pipeline will coordinate when and how the activity should run. So these go hand in hand. Pipelines are almost dependent on activities. They are interdependent here. And the next one is data set. So data set, as I said, you have various types of data set here. They represent the structure of data, which you are either moving or transforming. See, whatever the data you are using here need not be transformed. So either you can use it for moving the data or transforming to a different readable format of your end system. So for example, you can define the data set for tables, files, folders in different data stores like blob storage, data warehouse, etc. Linked services. So linked services is a new term here. So it is just like a connection string. So for example, how do you connect your data factory with the external application? For example, here data factory, how does it communicate with the blob storage? So that is why you will be creating a linked services, and that is how the connection is established. So it is like you are giving to connect to the external resources. Even you can connect to the Azure SQL DB also, or even the on-premises database also possible. So all this connection first happens via linked services. The next is data flow. So data flow. So here, when you remember, how do you do transformation? Data flow comes into picture. So it is a graphical representation for data transformation. For example, here, if you want to transform the date, or if you want to append something in your data, the data, for instance, the date can be in a different format, but when you transform it to your end system, you need to rephrase it in a different format. So there comes a transformation in data flows here. So there plays a data flow plays a major role there. So, and next is parameters and variables. So since you have different pipelines, and since that even from one pipeline to another pipeline also, if you want to execute, that is possible. And if you want to pass any parameters, here you have an option of passing the parameters across different pipelines and activities. You have variables. So variables here you can store the values to use within the pipelines. So for no further delay, let me go to the demo here. So this is how the ADF looks. And coming to the data set here first. So let me create a new data set. So here you will be presented with a various range of data sets. So for example, if I click a blob storage, you have delimited, JSON, Excel, you have so many formats. So, and here you can give the name. And here do you see the linked service? So this is the linked service, which since this is a blob, you need to create a link service for giving a connection to the blob here. So since I already have a blob, I will tell you how do I create it. So this is a blob storage. And Since I already have a subscription, you will be able to get the details from the subscription itself. Otherwise, you have other policy via Azure Key Vault also, you will be able to do it. If you want to test the connection, you have an option to test the connection as well here. See, and if the connection is successful, the message is displayed. And let me create. So here it is successfully created. So whatever the name I have given, it is displayed here. And if you see, let me go back to my storage account. So this is the storage account which I am using. And for example, I am going to refer this CSV, and here the path will be already kept ready for you, and you need to just go and select it over. And if you want, if your file is having the first row as header, so who are maybe from the F&O background, you will be able to relate it with the DMF. So where you will be referring the first row as header. So here also you have an option to mention it. Click here. And so here if you want to change the delimiter, you can change the delimiter as well, whether it's a semicolon or comma. In my case, here I have a sample of customer group where I have only it is a comma separated here. So it is a comma delimiter. And if you want to see the schema, you need to import the schema. So these are all the fields what I have in the file. So this will be present here. If you want to add any new parameters, that is also possible. At the moment, my CSV file is not having any parameters. So it is I leave it as such. And if you want to preview the data, what is present in the file, this option is also there. These data, whatever the data is there, you will be able to do a simple preview here. So this is this is how you will be defining the data set. There are other data set for SQL. So if you want to create for a SQL, Azure SQL, you can do that as well, where you will be creating a linked service for that, and where you will be giving the database server names, and where I think when you create a SQL DB, you will have the authentication type followed by the credentials. So you need to supply all these details here, and it will be ready for you to use. So this will be used when you have a data movement from the external system to your SQL DB. So it is not only Azure SQL DB, you will be able to use for the on-premises database as well. So this is a various types of data sources what we have in Azure Data Factory. So the next one, I am going to give you a demo on the pipeline. So here I have given here, you have a list of activities. If you remember in my previous slide, I have told you pipeline and activities go hand in hand. So how do you create a pipeline? You create a pipeline like this. As soon as you create a pipeline, you will be listed with the activities what are all present here. So inside the pipelines, you are going to define the activities. So for example, move and transform here, just drag and drop here, and you need to select source and sync. Um, Here it is called source and destination. The terms are different, but it is the same here. Source from where you need to copy the data, and sync, that is your destination data. So this is how the copy data does. It is not only restricted to the sync to the CSV file. Here, if you click, same as usual, will be presented with various data set here. So if you want to copy from CSV to your SQL DB, or even the REST API, via REST API, if you want to send the data to F&O, even that is also possible. This is one of the activity in ADF. So in my case, what I have done is I have used the same customer group CSV file, and I have created a copy of data, and I have created a sync here, where if you want to open here, this will dynamically create a file name in this blob storage. So upon execution, all the data from customer of this source will be transferred to this one. And you have two options to trigger. See, a simple debug will be, it is like a debugging, like you debug the code, correct? So it is like how you will be able to see that in this particular screen, but later it will go off from the execution. But if you want to keep a monitor of how the execution has happened, you need to click add trigger. So this will monitor, this will have a history of the executions. I will show you how it is done. So I will do a trigger now. And if you see, there is a monitor option here. And do you see the data is getting executed? So this is how the monitor is happening. So something, if it has something failed, and you will be able to filter it for based on the time range. If you want to filter only some of the pipelines, even that is also possible. All these are possible here. So if you see the one which I have executed now is successfully done. So here, if you want to see what is the execution, here is the input and here is the output. So here you will not be able to see how the data is transferred. It will only tell you how the data is read, how it is written. But here, if you go, it has created a new file. So one thing I wanted to say here is the speed in this copy activity is seriously very powerful, because it is not going to take much time. If I remember in my previous experience, I had almost close to 20K records, and it has taken only few milliseconds to execute this copy activity via this copy activity. So this is one of the best feature what we have in ADF. And the next is, we have so many activities here. One is data flow. So if you remember, I told you what is data flow, right? Where you will be doing the data transformation. So let me also show that how it is done. So if I do here, so again, the data flow, if you want, everything comes with. Okay. So here, okay. I'm going to create a new data flow here. If you want to create a new data flow, you need to go here. Otherwise, you can go from here as well. Go here and it takes you to the new data flow screen. Here I am going to add the data source as the file here, the same customer group file. And here you have an option to do various operations. You can join the file. You can even filter the data what you have here. For example, let me filter. So for example, here I have in this case, I have demo 6 and demo 7. So if I want to filter only the demo 6 as the customer ID, it will be very simple here. So only the demo 6 will be copied. So here I go equals, and the customer group, I am just going to drag and drop the customer group here. Customer group ID is equal to demo 6. So save and finish. Sorry. Yeah, simple. So if you want to even do a data preview, it is possible here. It will immediately show what are the data is previewed. See, you can see the fetching of data is in progress. So as and when you want to check whether your expression is correct or not, you have an option of data preview in all the screens. Let me save and finish. I will show the data preview here. So if I do a refresh, so the source has 2 records. As per my filter, it should fetch only 1 record, because in the filter expression, I have given only 1 record. So like this, you can do various transformations in this. For example, yeah, it has come. So in the filter, that has brought only 1 record here. So accordingly, if you want to do any filter on your records, or if you even want to do some transformations, transformation is via it will be in this one, derived column. So if you want to do something on the derived column, then you will be able to check, for example, here, the customer group ID, the description. I need to append the description to with another prefix, with suffix or prefix, even that is also possible here. So this is how the data transformation is run. So I have created a sample data flow for you just to save the time. So if you see this same customer CSV, the customer file I have taken, here I have concatenated. So for example, here, if you remember, I told you the derived column, right? So here I have concatenated the description with a simple one called converted. So what happens is, if you do a data preview, see in the source, the data will be different. After this derived column, the data will be transformed to whatever the expression you have given there. In the data flow, this will take some time to refresh. Let us wait. See here, this is the data in the source. And after derive, it will be in this format. See, the description is converted. Whereas if you see here, the description is this. So this is just a simple one which I have done here, but in various cases where in the real-time scenarios where you will be receiving the date in a different format. And when you send to F&O or your end system, you need to convert it into their readable format, right? So in those cases, this derived column, this data flow plays a major role. And this one, I am just writing it to a JSON file here. I have already created a JSON file. So this is the JSON file. It will be returned to this JSON file. And in here also you will be able to do a preview. So the JSON file will have a copy of the converted, the derived column here. So whatever is here, see it is converted. So these two files will, these two fields only will be consumed when you send the data to F&O. Okay, so just I have explained about the data flow and the data set here. And I have also given you how the copy data is performed. And I have also given you how the filter is done. So I will just execute a pipeline and show you how a filter is executed here. So filter, for instance, I have a variable here of array 1, 2, 3, 4, just a simple variable. So in the filter condition, I have given the condition can be given here. Everything will automatically come as a lookup here. So these are all the filter iterator. You have a parameters here. You have variables here. So variables, how do you define? As soon as you create a pipeline, you have an option of variable. So here you can go and add the variable names here. So here I am just going to filter the items which are not equal to 2. So my variable is having 1, 2, 3, 4 in the array. So I will be excluding this 2 here. And I am capturing this variable, this result in one of the variable here. This is a filter result. So this is the output of the variable. And this is a for each loop. So obviously for each loop, we will be needing it in every iteration, correct? So I need to loop through all these variables and then I will be appending. So here what append does is it will append the variable. It will append, it will keep on merging the data result to this particular variable. So that is what I am doing here. So if you see item is nothing but the for each loop item, the current item. For example, we'll be saying it as for I is equal to 0, correct? So that current item, what the for each loop holds is the item here. And the next one is I am capturing the value of this result, the result of this appended variable in another variable. If you see, this is the filter result. So I will execute it and show for you. So this, if you click on debug option, you will be able to see this immediately in the screen. So if you do a add trigger, one advantage is debug, you will be able to see immediately on the screen. Another advantage of add trigger is you will be able to keep the history of all the executions. And I will also show you how do you decode all these steps. So if you see, you have input and output. So input of this filter is all these 4. Okay, and here the output will be 134 because there I have given a condition to exclude 2. And the next variable, see the input and this is the output. So this set variable is capturing all these result from the previous step. And for each loop iterates through everything. At the moment, the for each loop will be null. The reason being it has not completed when it is executing. So, but for this for each loop, the item count will be 3. So you can correlate if you are a technical background means for I is equal to 0, I is equal to 3, I plus plus. So that is what this count means here. And append variable, it will append the variable 1. Output will not be visible here. The reason being it only appends. That is the reason I am capturing this append variable result in another variable here. So in the next loop, the variable will be 3. And in the next loop, the variable will be 4. So if you want to see the output of this append activity, it will be this one, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here we have seen how the filter is working. So filter is applicable to filter your data based on filter. Make sure, please remember, filter operates only on the array variable. So especially if you are working on a JSON array, this plays a major role to filter the data. So you don't need to have any extra conditions yet. With the available expressions, you can make this easily work. And you have something called as metadata. If you see in the activity, there is an activity called metadata. So as you know, metadata is nothing but reading the metadata, the structure, the template of some the file what you are giving. So for example, if I want to read the metadata of the file, what I am using here, for example, here my file is customer group here, right? So if you want to get the metadata of this one, I can create a simple metadata here. Okay, just drag and drop, select this. And if you want, what are the field lists? This is the mandatory. The reason being, this is one of the argument in metadata. It is nothing but if you want to know how many columns are there in this particular file, you can bring it. If you want to know what are the item name is nothing but the file name. That also you can bring it. If you want to know what is the item type or last modified date time of that particular file, what is the size of the file, all these are available here. So I will execute this and show for you. So this is not going to take much time. See, it is succeeded. And if you see the output, so as usual, you have input, you have output here. If you see the item name is customer group.csv and the column count is 9. So I have 9 fields here. So there are total column counts, 9 are executed. So if you want to add further arguments in your execution, that also is possible. The next one, yeah. So here comes the major part of our discussion, the integration. So you have, as I said, it is also possible for batch as well as for real-time integration. So first, let me show you how did I execute this OData import. Just for this one, let me first trigger it because data flow will take few minutes to complete. So while this is executing, I will show step by step on how I have configured this pipeline. So as usual in the data flow, this I have already explained. So here the file I am reading is the customer group file. I am converting it to this one here. So I'm transforming the description to the converted structure here, and I am writing to JSON. So as you all know, OData accept the JSON format, right? So I am converting a CSV to a JSON format. So how I am doing it is just a simple one. I have done a mapping. And as we already know, JSON OData is very specific about the naming convention here. So if you give it in the uppercase, the end result will be failure. The reason being F&O OData import is case sensitive. So we should be specific on the column names what we are using here. So here I have even taken the advantage of converting this input column to the column name which I need. So this is where the mapping plays a role. And if I want to output to a single file, that is also possible. If you want to output in any, see if you can default it to any other different folder. So at the moment, what I am doing is I am going to bring it to this particular folder structure. That's it. So, and if you want to do a data preview, that is already exported. And here you have an option to export as CSV also to see how your converted file looks. That is also possible. You can export it as CSV here. So here via this data flow, what I have done is I have consumed the data CSV file, converted, did some data transformation and converted into a JSON format. So this is the first one. And as usual, here we will be needing the client, the app registration details, where I have given the client ID, client secret, and all this. So like just like a postman, like how we do it for the postman, right? So on the URL here is also the auth token and followed by the body, which consists of all those client credential details. And this generates the total token. And here in the headers, please make sure this particular content type is specified because usually in the Postman, we will not be including it. Postman or any even in the logic apps, if you are using this, we will not be including. But in ADF, this is needed here. And lookup is nothing but it will read the data. What it is, it will read the data from JSON. So for example, data flow has already made the JSON ready for us. So the lookup will read the data one by one. It will read recursively here. So if you want to return it only for one row, you can check this option and it will read recursively. So concurrently, it will read all this data. So if you want to have recursive option, it will read the recursive option here. So I am going to read the data from this. So this becomes the input for the next for each loop. So for instance, here I have two records here. So for the for each loop, it will iterate for 2 times here. So here in the for each loop, the activity, the input for each loop will be the activity of read data. So here, if you see here itself, you have everything ready. You don't need to do anything. Activity you need to do, and you need to give the value. Click OK. So this is how we need to do. And inside the for each loop, there comes our OData import option. So this is nothing but a simple OData call. And authorization, I have mentioned here as the authorization token here. That is a known, this we are already aware of it. And the body is nothing but the current object what for each loop is holding. So this is for each. So here you will not have any other option. So it is just the for each loop variable here. So I think this particular flow would have completed in the run. Okay, so refresh. Okay, OData import, it is succeeded. So this will take 3 minutes. The reason being there, the data flow will take some time to complete. That is the reason I have executed before itself. So here in the data flow that would have completed. In the auth token, if you see, the bearer token is generated. And in the read data, here it will read the data in an array. The read data, if you remember, we have read it from a JSON. So this we are reading it. This is bringing the lookup here, this value here. For each, as usual, it has a count of 2. And import data, if you see the input here, this is the authorization token and the body. See, if you see the body is sent as converted here. So, and here the demo, the other one, 7. So since I have executed this as a for each loop, it is executing 2 times here. So if you go to the system, you see there are 2 records created in F&O. So this is via OData. And if you want to make it sequential, here you have a setup to make it as sequential. So at the moment, I have not made it as sequential because it will run it as concurrent here. So if you want to make it sequential 1 record at a time, then you need to select this option. So this we have covered the real-time scenario. Now comes the recurrence part. So obviously, when the data volume is huge, you will need to have the recurrence as well, right? Where you will be sending to the F&O. For example, here our end system is F&O. So we'll be sending to F&O and where the batch, the recurring job takes care of bringing all the processing the data, correct? So here also I am using the same auth token, the read file. Here the read file is the URL what I am getting here. The URL is nothing but the URL of this particular CSV file. The URL can be given here. See, at the moment I have made it invisible, but here this is the URL. You will be giving it here. So the next question what it will arise in your mind is how do we arrive at this URL when we are not sure about this particular context, right? So that I will be explaining it in my next scenario. So at the moment, let us assume we know this URL and using this get method, you are going to read the data here. So here there is no authentication. This is only a simple get method. So the URL is passed. And as usual, here I have created a recurring job. So if you see, this is as usual a recurring job, which I have created. A simple recurring job created in F&O. And here the activity will be the read file activity. So the read file activity will be the response of the read file activity will be passed in the body. So here the authorization as usual will be the authorization of this one. So let me execute it for you. This is not going to take much time because we don't have the the data flow here. While this is going, let me show you how it is pushed. So yes, so if you see the read file, it has read the file. See, this is the response because if you remember, this is the response we have mapped in the next one. The response is being passed as a body there. So the response and the data import is also successful. So if you remember, this is the message ID which we will be passing as a part, which will be getting from the API call. So I go here. I already have created a data project. And if I go to manage recurring job, manage messages, I will have something ready for me. So the one which I have passed here, I have see it is created. So if I see 2 updated, if you remember, demo 6 and demo 7 were already there, but in this case, you see the description is demo 6 and demo 7. Earlier via OData, we transformed it as demo 6 converted. We transformed the data. So now it is set as demo 6. So now if I refresh, see now the changes is done. So this covers the recurrence part. And yeah, I have also told you how do we dynamically construct the URL of the file. So I skipped this part because this is already explained, the auth token. So if you remember, I have something called as, I have told you about the metadata, where you will be getting the metadata of the file, correct? So I am getting the item name of the file. So here maybe you might not know the file, but usually we can get the item name from the data set. So I am writing the item name here. Item name returns the data file, I mean the file name. And here I am concatenating. I am getting the value of it, value of this metadata file. This is the item name. And how I am deriving the URL here, it is simple. So here I am deriving, for example, I need to concatenate this get URL, and usually the blob storage will be always be the same. So if you are using a blob storage, the name will always be the same. This first part will always be the same, followed by this metadata. For example, the file name. So this is how you will be dynamically creating the URL to get the details of the file, which we have done in the previous step. So in this previous step, we have directly given here, this one we have directly given, but in this step, we have constructed derived the URL using these two steps. So via this, you will be able to send the data to F&O. So this completes the integration, a simple integration. I have given a demo here where we have done the transformation via OData and then how we have imported via recurrence to F&O. So the options are more here. So how do we make use of, I mean, we can go through all these iterations and conditions. So many features are there. So how do we match it with our requirement? This is how it comes with out of experience. So yeah, and yeah, demo is done. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you, Rachit.
Thanks, Anita. That was very informative, and I think a lot of content to be consumed. I definitely will be watching it on repeat mode few times. But
Thanks, Rachit.
thank you for
Yeah,
that.
there are so many features,
Yeah,
activities. It
yeah,
comes out of so a few things. It looks simple. Yeah, how do we consume and transform that? It is interesting to learn. Even that is what I found here.
true. There is so much in the platform. We do have some questions. Shall we start taking them? And guys, feel
Yeah.
free to unmute yourself if you want to jump in. But there is a question from Hiral. I'm just going from top to bottom. The question is, can we copy data from blob storage to a Windows server, like a local Z drive via ADF pipeline? So basically, can we connect to an on-prem like Windows machine? What's your thoughts on that? Sorry, I think you're on mute, Anita.
Thank you. Yeah,
No
so
worries.
even on-premises option is also available. So if you remember, I have shown you something called sync. In the sync, you will be clicking a new button, and there you will be presented an option where you have an option of on-premises also. So there you need to give all your on-premises details, and there you will be able to establish the connection. But as such, it is not on your laptop, but you need to create an on-premises gateway and then give the details there.
Right. My understanding was like we can use linked services somehow to connect to your local drive. Yeah. Cool. I hope that answers, Hiral. If you want to
Uh,
unmute.
yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, Anita. Hi, I'm Hiril, and thanks for the response. So the another question was, so do we need to install some gateway on the Windows server to make the
Yes,
connection?
for the on-premises, right?
Yes.
Yes, on-premises, it requires the installation of on-premises gateway in your server.
Okay, and that is, for example, in my case, it is handled by our IT team. So we do have some access issues. So the IT team needs to make sure that the gateway is properly installed, and then only the connection can happen, right?
Yes, once the gateway is installed, he will be giving you few details to fill this connection. So that details you need to get. Only then you will be able to establish via linked services.
Okay, okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah, security is very important, Hiral, because if we don't have proper authentication and mechanism to connect to a local drive, then we will basically we can spam anybody's computer, right? So there has to be a proper layer of security and this on-prem data gateway installed. through which you can authorize the ADF pipelines to do something on your drive. Thank you for that. Okay, next question from Hariharan. It would be great if you can show that what are ways to do the integration with D365 using ADF. So I guess you showed OData and the recurrence, but I think the DMF package API would be also similar. Ultimately, it's a REST call under the hood. But Hari, do you still have any questions on this front? Okay, let's move on. So I think, yeah, you have shown. So basically, my understanding also says we can create these zip files using these transformation options which are available. So whatever we
That comes
basically
with
do
the
through logic apps.
parameters, Rachit. As you know,
Yeah.
you are my logic apps guru, right? I used to prefer your API export videos. So there you will be passing the parameters for the export, correct? So that parameters will be automatically popped up when you select the option here.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Sorry, I was on the mute. This is Hari. I just need some quick question, like the integration, which way would be better, like a OData, or so we want to use something Dataverse. So which way would be better for the streamline integration?
It depends on the volume you are using, Hari. So, for example, you know, OData, it is restricted to max 10K. So after that, you will have the throttling effect, correct? So there, when the data load is minimum, then you can go for OData. So if there is a bulk data, then the API recurrence would be the best one here.
Oh, okay, so the 10K is a one time. So if I pass the 10K data, so the OData is okay.
Yes, yes. There you will be defining a throttling limit in F&O as well. You have a parameter to define the throttling limit. So yeah, there, but obviously it is a safer limit, though it is mentioned as 10K. We usually recommend our clients for 6K. The reason being, there in live system you will have many processes executing, right? And because of this 10K load, the system should not have any performance issue. So the best limit is 6K usually, though the Microsoft recommended is 10K.
Okay, so if I want to do the bulk transaction, so the best way is the Dataverse, right?
Dataverse is also possible. For bulk, I usually go for this one, the API recurrence. So where you have a bulk data and threads will take care of splitting the data into various threads, correct? The batch will take care of doing a multi-threading.
Okay.
So why? So Hari, just curious to know, you are sending data to Dataverse or you want to send it to F&O? Because if you want to send it to F&O, you can directly send it. You don't have to pass through Dataverse unless there is a reason to do so for your scenario.
Yeah, that's one I just want to understand. Like I have a many the data, so every day I want to send like 1,000 and 2,000 records to F&O. So I just want to try to understand. So which way would be better?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how big each record is. As Anita mentioned, you can try both ways, whatever works best. Because if you do OData, uh, or versus you can do DMF package API. So if you do DMF package API, you can send it in one way, in one call. And with OData also, you can batch your records. So you have to probably test by configuring both type of patterns and see how the behavior is in your landscape. Uh, it's not just volume, it's just how many, it's the frequency, what's the, how many number of columns you have, if there is any transformation happening, are there any validations. So it can basically expand to more level of details, but I think the best bet would be to test out both the things and then decide what is working nicely in your systems.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Let's move on to next. Sorry, I lost my chat window. Mish, are you able to see which was the next question after Hariharan? I scrolled down and going up again.
Yeah, so next question is about is there any way to stop the recording triggered in the holidays?
Yeah. Actually, it's very curious to understand this one. So we have the schedule trigger. So the schedule trigger we can exclude the holiday like a week off. Is there any way we can mention the holidays in the schedule trigger?
Holidays we cannot because that is I am not sure, but at least weekends that should be possible. So
Yeah,
even the
the
normal
week.
recurrence you have a weekend, right? So that is
Yeah.
possible, but holidays that's something it calls for some additional extension here.
Yeah. That's curiosity because the
Yeah.
weekends we manage it, but in the holidays because every day is a cost for the integration, right? So every time we need to manually manage in the holidays. Just curious, is there any way? Yeah.
Is there any endpoint for these triggers, Anita? We may need a logic app to
So,
stop
sorry,
the.
Rachit.
I'm saying like what Hari is saying, like because we don't have like calendar set up somewhere
Correct.
in ADF. So maybe if these pipelines or these triggers can be accessed through APIs, then probably it all can
Via
be
logic
automated.
apps, we can call ADF, but there also we
Mhm.
need to do some additional extension on identifying the holidays and then canceling that pipeline. So you can stop the pipeline, yeah, but we need to bring that extension there.
Yeah. I hope AI would be able to do that one day for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second question was how to trigger the pipeline once the record is in Dynamics 365 Finance and Operation.
That that is maybe we don't see whenever there is some event happening in F&O, obviously that calls for a business event, correct? So business event, we don't have that in ADF, but it can be triggered via logic apps. So logic apps has the capability to trigger the ADF. So if some event happens in F&O, you can trigger the logic apps, and the first step will be triggering the logic apps, and the second step calling this particular ADF. So that does the job for you.
Okay. Apart from the logic app, because the logic app is the licensed one. Is there any way we can call this the pipeline from the Power Automate? Because I can capture the business event in the Power Automate. So from the Power Automate, I can call the pipeline. Is there any way?
I am not sure because these are all the Azure connectors, right? So I am not sure whether Power Automate supports this. So that we need to see. See, for instance, Logic Apps has the connector for ADF, but Power Automate, whether this connector it is having or not, I am not sure, Hari. If that is there, then we can use that as well.
Yeah, because why we are always considering about this logic app, Power App, this integration, because everything is the integration. The each activity is costly. Each activity is a cost. It's not the data size. So the activity is cost. So I'm just trying to reduce the activity. So if you have any idea, like, is there any way we can easily reduce the activity and save some money in the ADF?
That
There
depends
will
on
not,
your requirement, correct?
there
Yeah,
won't be a
that
direct
depends.
answer to that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah, it needs a 1 hour workshop.
Okay. No, okay.
But yeah, I think you have to look at your overall data journey. Of course, everything can be optimized, but yeah, I mean, from if you have to use out of the box connector, you can also call an Azure function, and Azure function can do the job. And then what are you doing in pipeline which you can't do in Azure function? So maybe try to see if you can avoid using pipeline, if you can do that thing outside, or try to see what works best. But yeah, cloud has so many options now. It's just like, but I'm not sure if Power Automate can trigger ADF pipeline. But yeah, as Anita mentioned,
Hello?
Power Automate. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes, sorry, but only to say to Ariaran that it's possible for Power Automate to have done last year. There is a connector to Azure Data Factory. But if you use the pipeline inside Synapse, that doesn't work. You need Azure Data Factory. There is the connector. You can address the pipeline. you can get back also the status of the pipeline and do some action due to this. This is possible. And I have done something integrating a model-driven app inside finance operation that actually call on a page a Power Automate that starts the data factory. So everything is connectable. If you look in the Power Automate, the connector for data factory is pretty easy.
Okay.
You can also pass some parameters with a script, with a JSON script inside the connector.
Okay.
It's something possible. It's absolutely possible.
Okay. So if it is possible, that would be great because we can avoid too many the triggers. Yeah. Okay. I'll try that one.
Okay.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, guys. And the next question is about it is possible to connect to multiple databases as a source and then save it in the same file.
Data source, database, I don't think so it is possible. Maybe you can use in the data flow where you have an option, if you remember the source, right? And then you can do a union with another data set there. That is possible, but in one data set, it is not possible here.
Yeah, multiple databases are not there. Okay. The second question was about the subscription and licenses are needed. So I said that subscriptions are definitely needed for Azure. Do you think that licenses? I don't think that licenses are anyways not needed over here, correct?
Yes, subscription is fine. Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then there was what is the ideal method for integration for one application to Dynamics Finance and Operation in terms of Logic App versus ADF? How should we choose between using the Logic App and the ADF?
ADF comes into picture when you need any transformation. So for example, where your source is in a different format and see few fields which are in a different format and where you need to transform it. So you don't need, because here you have ready-made, here in ADF you have everything ready-made in the transformation. So that makes the life easier for the end users. I mean, for the, be it a technical or a non-technical, this will be very easy to use. So when there is a transformation involved in your requirement, then ADF comes into picture. Otherwise, usually for integration, then maybe Logic Apps, it depends on the requirement what you have.
I think Logic App is more suited to build enterprise-grade integration layer. ADF is more to do with data. So if you are dealing with data transformation, as Anita mentioned, that's where you can use ADF pipeline. I may be wrong, but I feel running ADF is more costlier than Logic App, but don't quote me on that. So I think, for example, if you have to create a zip file, better use a Azure function rather than an ADF pipeline, because that could be more cost optimized solution, but that's just my view. So yeah, I mean, there is no clear statement on when to use Logic App versus ADF, but definitely data and your capabilities you want in your integration platform. So for integration, Logic App is the answer. For data transformation, ADF is the answer. That's my take on that question, but happy for others to add to that. Yeah.
I think we are good. There is a last question. Can we consume ADF pipelines from Logic App? I think yes, we can do that.
Have a connector, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome. I think this was good. If any question is left, guys, we might have not sure if it's lost. So if anyone wants to unmute and say anything or give any feedback, let us know. But really appreciate, Anita, all your knowledge sharing, and everyone who has joined us today. Every person who joins makes a big difference. So really thank you everyone who has joined us today. But yeah, we can hang around for a few more minutes if there is any question which needs discussion. Yes,
last few question. Can we use the ADF for the tier 1 environment?
Yes, once we have the app
think,
registration, that is possible.
correct.
Yeah. Everything plays with Azure, right? Where we have the app registration and this one. That is possible.
Correct. Recording will be available in our the D365 user group India. So don't worry about it. It will be there. Yep.
Yeah.
I will do it in morning. It's already midnight here.
Midnight, 12 a.m. But for a
Good
good
morning.
reason.
Sorry, can I just ask one quick question if you can hear me?
Sure.
Is this a one-off thing or is it weekly or monthly or how? It's my first time, so that's why I'm trying not to miss the next one because I really gained from this one.
Yeah. So, mate, you have to follow our LinkedIn channel. I'll share the handle again because we generally do session once a month or once in 3 weeks, and we announce on our LinkedIn page. You can then register and then join the session. Does that answer?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Sam. Right. Just one last thing. Please give us your feedback. I'll just share the link in the chat window. If you can spare 1 minute of your time and give us a feedback, that will help us to improve the way we conduct these sessions and improve the experience for audiences. You. Some Krishna says you have Logic app playlist on YouTube. I did created one, Krishna, in the past. It's not very detailed, but it shows how to work with F&O integration patterns. So I'll share that link in the chat window soon. Awesome, on time. I think this was very, very insightful session. Like this 1 hour was full on action packed. Thanks everyone. But yeah, if anyone wants to unmute and give say anything, yeah. Kudos, Anita. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks again to the team. Yeah, thanks, team.
It was well on time actually, and I really appreciate how the flow went. So I was also listening completely and seeing parallelly in my Azure portal as well. So it's really very good session.
Awesome. All right, guys. Then thank you for joining us. Stay tuned and keep following us for future announcements. Thank you.
All. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Bye.
You too. You too.
Thanks.
Thank you all.